Get effed.
Hi, my name is Hans-Peter Meyer. Excuse me. And today I am talking to Rob Tryon. I manage that one. Okay. Rob is an oyster grower on the West Coast, and he's also a member of the board of the BC Shellfish Growers Association. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what Rob does. The oysters on Vancouver Island, part of the economy here, the BC Shellfish Festival, and let's start. So, what's this t-shirt about, Rob?
Well, a couple years ago I got started on Twitter and my username was Effing Oyster. I grow Effingham Inlet oysters out in Barclay Sound, which the farm is about an hour and a half boat ride from Port Alberni. It just kind of snowballed from there, the whole Effing Oyster thing now. Everyone kind of knows me as Effing Rob, and my Twitter hashtag, the official hashtag, is Get Effed.
So how long have you been doing this? How long have you been growing oysters?
I've been growing oysters for over 10 years now. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned that oyster farming is more of an art than a science. So
tell me, what do you mean?
Well, we're dealing with Mother Nature, where we can have different weather things affect us. We can have algae blooms that come in that can be harmful to the oysters. We can have PSP come in.
What's PSP?
PSP is paralytic shellfish poisoning, and that's also known as red tide. Right. We've had a few closures over the years that have been extended period of time, so it's definitely been a learning experience, but I enjoy it.
So this algae stuff, like to me, algae sounds like yuck, but you were telling me that actually the different algae. Basically, we're dealing with one oyster on the coast here, but it's the different algae and different things happening that give them different flavor. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, oysters are a lot like wines in the sense that you're going to have wines have their terroir, oysters have their terroir from the ocean. So depending on where they're growing, how they're grown, if they're a beach oyster or a tray oyster, all those things are going to influence the flavor of the oyster, the minerals in the water. Also the time of the year is going to influence the flavor of the oyster. So, the perfect platter of oysters has 6 or 7 different oysters. You're gonna get a different flavor out of each. I've got 2 different oysters. The only difference is is the size. They're all grown in the same tray, and oysters eat algae. Algae's all different sized, and the bigger oysters get the full spectrum of food, and the smaller ones just get the little algae. And just between those 2 oysters you will get a different flavor profile. The Effinghams, you will get a nice sweet melon aftertaste, which is hard to believe when it's coming out of the ocean. You get that saltwater briny start and the sweet melon aftertaste, so a lot of people really enjoy it.
So I grew up in the coast here. My dad was constantly shoving seafood down our throats. I learned to hate it. I do like the small oysters, but you were telling me that tell me about what you do when people come to your oyster stand.
Yeah, usually when I'm doing an event, I'll bring both oysters. People come up and they'll say, "Oh, I want that little one right there. I want the little one." I said, "Okay, yeah, try it." They try it. They get the really clean ocean flavor, and then I can talk them into trying a bigger one, and I'll tell them that you're going to get a nice sweet aftertaste. They don't really believe me. A lot of people think that you should swallow an oyster whole. No, you want to chew it up. You want to release the flavors. And they'll try the bigger one, and they say, "I like that one better." They definitely like getting effed.
So what's your favorite pairing for your big oysters?
Well, a lot of people, it depends on the mood. They compare nicely with beers, they compare nicely with bubbly, they compare nicely with a nice white wine. It just depends on the mood.
Okay. So you said that I think there's about 200 oyster growers, Vancouver Island and region.
Yep, sounds about right.
I've heard that this is potentially a really big part of our local food economy, but right now we're seeing most of our oysters shipped out of region. So what's that about, and why aren't we eating more?
Well, I think we should all eat more because they're so good for us. They're so healthy. There's, in 6 oysters, you get 18 grams of protein with only 2 grams of fat. Or in 3 oysters, Pacific oysters, you get 120% of your daily value of vitamin B12. If we can just incorporate oysters into, a monthly diet, a weekly diet. You're going to support local farmers, which is a very sustainable industry. Our oyster farming has so many benefits to the environment and to the coastal communities.
Okay, so give me three. What are the benefits?
Well, oyster farming creates artificial reefs where, I've documented over 200 different organisms that live on the trays, live near the oysters. Fish can hide out in the trays amongst the oysters from predators, stuff like that. Coastal communities, it's creating jobs that have been lost traditionally from logging and fishing. And the third one is that it's good for us. Everyone is becoming more and more conscious about where their food comes from, and we're all local people. And if we can support local farmers, everyone wins.
Where are you from, Rob?
I'm originally from Victoria. I live in Parksville, but I do spend a lot of time out on the West Coast.
Right. Okay, so the big showcase event for our industry, BC's industry, is the BC Shellfish Festival. It happens in mid-June, and so what happens at the festival?
Oh, the festival, it's great. It's a lot of fun. On the Friday evening, it's a chef's dinner. It's a 6-course meal prepared by 6 different chefs from all over BC. Usually there's a few local chefs, so come support them. They each prepare a course, and I've been 2 years, and it's amazing. Beforehand, there's a oyster raw bar where there's usually 2 or 3 different growers shucking their oysters, so you can come meet the farmer, try their oysters, try a few different varieties, and you get to see the different flavors between the different oysters in the different regions.
Okay, so that's a big event, and it's ticketed. There's an expense to that, and I really encourage people to get on the tickets fast because they do sell out really quickly.
They go on sale April 1st.
Okay, April 1st. But there's also an open public event on the Saturday, as well as some other shoulder events. What happens on the open event?
On the open event, there's the BC Oyster Shucking Competition happens, which is always a lot of fun. It's a race between people that want to come and try it. Usually there's some professionals that do it, so it can be a lot of fun. Sometimes you see a little blood, so if you're queasy, you might want to just keep an eye out for that. There's the oyster chowder competition. It's a full day of fun. It's great for the family. I'll be bringing my family up. I've got 2 young girls, and we'll come spend the day and enjoy some time in the Comox Valley.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rob. So that's Rob is a member of the BC Shellfish Growers Association, an oyster grower on BC's west coast, and we're talking about an event coming up soon in June in the Comox Valley, the BC Shellfish Festival. See you there, and thanks for watching.